Now, while I was solving the necessity problem for fading away, we have seen many Chinese escapist art. By the way, those paintings were developed in the so-called enlightened periods in the Chinese history. There are signs of the political avalanche towards totalitarianism. The most significant is probably the disappearance of resistance, such as when people feel compelled to speak politically correctly, and when the systems of checks and balances cease to function, especially when the judges are compelled to do the politically correct things rather than judge according to the law. So on top of necessity, there is urgency, at least in the sense of long-term planning. For Chinese, there used to be somewhere to escape. Now, if America goes down this path, there would probably be no place for anyone to go. Escapism then becomes an inevitability. The process of escaping does not have to be permanent, although it goes beyond that run-of-the-mill weekend outing, of course. We still can go into hiding from that something important but unsolvable, and come out when necessary. We should start with the topic of how to escape the hold in the first place. Let's start with two paintings. They were both painted in the 10th century. This one was by Yuan. It was titled, "Waiting to be ported over water at the mouth of the Shan mountain." To be sure, everyone in the painting is doing something. Nobody is waiting, as the title suggests. In other words, you cannot make it happen. The business of escaping is like sleeping. You can do certain things, such as people in the painting, but you cannot force the outcome. It is a nurturing process. First, of course, you should stop from being held up by any thought that is contrary. Look at the people in the painting. They are not trying to stop the world from going down the toilet, so to speak. Instead, for those in the painting, they say, "I'm not that someone running the toilet. I am the fisherman." For me, I'm not the radio talk show host trying to impress on people anymore. I am an artist. The key word here is waiting. This painting was by Guan of a similar title. A problem about discussing the Chinese paintings is that I normally could not get images of good enough qualities to show the details. Without special permissions, it is often impossible, even if I see the originals in exhibitions, as they are often placed behind reflecting glasses in very dark rooms. Although museums have extremely high-resolution photographs, they do not make them publicly available. One of the reasons may be that they don't want anybody to point out any of their collections is a fake. I think that difficulty has made many people think that the Chinese paintings are all just similar lumps of black ink. Barely we can see the figures with this donkey here. He is not waiting. Behind the rocks, we see houses. On the other side, under the waterfall, we see other houses. Let's look at the waterfall. The title of this painting is "Waiting to be ported over water at the mountain stream." Like the last painting, there is nobody in the picture waiting for transportation. The stream here is not wide enough to even require transportation. Trying to be transported across the stream is not what we are talking about here. It is a metaphor. To be sure, escaping is a mental process. Theoretically speaking, if you could get your mind off the hold of whatever that would not let you go, you don't need to go to the mountains or become a monk. Big escapists do it right in the city, to quote one famous escapist. On a technical note, I want to mention that these paintings are so old that nothing, including the painter's identity, is reasonably certain. They may be later copies of the original. They're judged largely by the criticism of those who had seen the real things. Of course, you could find paintings with transportations in it. Let's look at this one. This was by Daoning, who lived from 970 to 1052, titled Fishing Vessels on Autumn River. Look at the majestic mountains and valleys carved out by glaciers. Although he probably did not simply reproduce a scene somewhere, as it is hard to imagine a place with so many glacier valleys in view this way. The glacier formation is clear enough. I don't think he could make that up. Also, the rock formations were also enhanced. Look here. Here's a guy trying to force his donkey onto the transportation. With that said, my point remains true. Also, without showing contrary examples, do you notice that there is no tour guide in these paintings? In general, I hate tour guides, as almost without exception, they keep my mind busy, so I could not see and essentially ruin the whole visit for me. Also, those paintings with tour guides could be fake. For much of the Song dynasty, somewhat less so in the succeeding ones, there was a sense in the society that it was an age of great men leading the rest, not like now. The public opinions put politicians as one of the most despised professions in the society. It is an age of small men, and small women, of course, to be sure that we are politically correct, leading the rest. It is probably also a sorry phenomenon of the time that lawyers are also at the bottom of the list. Without the lawyers, who are going to protect the rights of the people? Probably the people could not be bothered about any of this. This is a calligraphy rubbing of Zheng Banqiao. I quote, "It is hard to be smart, but especially hard to be dumb. Moving from smart to dumb is harder still. Let it go. Take a step back. Set the mind to peace, not for the purpose of future rewards." So you understand why his thoughts are not banned in China. Of course, not encouraged either, because the Chinese communists want fervent supporters, not passive escapists. So you say you still haven't explained where we need to be ported to. All of those paintings that we have shown so far should give you an idea about the destination. In addition, since I don't want to do 4 programs on this topic, let me quote a passage from a text found in Dunhuang, which, in more than 700 caves on the Silk Road, contains various art objects from the 4th to the 11th century. If you want to look up the text, the quote is from Buddhist text called Alta Sutra. Here I quote, "The trees mentioned in the text are not real trees. The mirror table is not a table. As there is nothing, there is no place for the dust to fall upon." End of quote. That's where you want to go, a place where the dust has nowhere to fall upon. So you could be held up by no one and nothing. Our generation, or these few generations, are going to exhaust much of the minerals and all the chemical fuels of the world. Because of that, historically speaking, everybody lives like a king or queen today. Ridiculously, people, especially the educated, want that kind of prosperity without having to work for it. When they face resistance of the majority, they want to carry out their ideals without the constraint of the Constitution, known otherwise as the guarantees of individual freedom, because those guarantees are on the side of the resistance. They want to use government as a vehicle, without limitations of Constitution, for them to accomplish their goal of feasting on the prosperity for everybody without anyone having to work for it. It sounds ridiculous, but enough people could not be bothered to think about it. I mean, this is going to be disastrous, even without anything else that will screw us up, like manufacturing some viruses to spread around for short-term political gains of a few, supported by the minority. If they prevail, with the control of the educational system, they may get the coming socialist generation to put the world on a path of self-destruction, as socialists have always done. All in all, I'm afraid history will not treat us nicely. For us individuals, however, as I have explained in length, that it is beyond me in this environment to worry about human being as a whole. There is an emergency to find that boat to take us to a place where we could rest our minds so we don't get dusty amongst all of this. For me and those few viewers of this program, I hope that we each find our boats that will transport us over the water to fade away. For me, the vehicle is art. To tell you the truth, I feel defeat to have to go back to the Chinese ideals that I haven't thought about since coming to America more than 3 decades ago. But as a reactivated escapist, my eyes are on the silver lining. For instance, the lack of subscribers gives me a sense of freedom, a vanishing sense of the need to meet others' taste. Okay, that's all about the sojourn to the East. I hope you enjoyed it. Next time, we'll be back to France to continue our journey of the Western modern art. I'll see you then.